These are 12 luxury travel tips that you need to know before going to Japan. For the first time, I made these mistakes and I don't want you to learn the hard way. We spent $1,000 on a 5-star hotel that felt like a haunted house. It had mosquitoes, cobwebs, and for what we paid, it was definitely not the luxury experience that I imagined. And to be honest, that wasn't even the worst part. We got on the wrong train from Kyoto to Hakone. We wasted 4 hours in transit on our Japan trip. And we learned the hard way that in Japan, you really do need to plan everything. So if you're planning your first time trip to Japan and you want it to be super luxurious, whether it be your honeymoon, anniversary, or you just want a really nice stress-free trip, I wish I knew these tips, so I'm spilling it all for you. Just a warning before we get into it, these are not budget travel tips. This is for the traveler who wants a more luxurious experience, cares about aesthetics, and just wants a really comfortable, stress-free trip. I literally just got back from Japan last week, so I'm here to spill it all. Also, if you're new here, hi, my name is Mish. I live in New York City now, and I love all things comfort when it comes to travel. So I'm living my best life, and I want you to live yours too. So let's get into these tips. Okay, number 1 is picking your hotel and the location that the hotel is in. People always say the hotel doesn't matter, you're barely in it. But to me, if you're anything like me, it does matter. I feel like sometimes the hotel makes or breaks my stay. Something to know is that in Japan, not all 5-star hotels are created equal, and you're going to need to do a little digging if you want the most aesthetic, comfortable experience. On the lower end in Tokyo, the hotel price of a 5-star might be around $400 to $500, and on the high end, $1,000 and above. If you're really looking to prioritize comfort, service, space, you're gonna wanna look at hotels on the pricier end because that means their location might be better, their amenities might be better, only if that matters to you. When we were in Tokyo, my one mistake was not looking at the hotel location enough. The location of the hotel was very inconvenient. We stayed at the Edition at Toranomon Hills. Just look at this view. It was so spacious. It had great turn-down service. The staff was amazing. We also had breakfast there every single morning with this amazing view. But to be honest, when you walk downstairs from our hotel, there was barely anything. We spent most of our time in Shibuya and Ginza, and I just wish our hotel was a little bit closer to those areas. I personally would have loved to walk downstairs and just been able to go shopping immediately or have food available for us. So before you book your hotel, these are 2 things to consider. Number 1, how luxurious, modern, and design forward you want the hotel to feel. And number 2, the location of your hotel. This was a mistake on our part, and if we knew, we would have stayed at the Edition in Ginza instead of Toranomon Hills. But it wasn't the worst thing. We were able to get a cab right outside of our hotel. They're really great about calling our Ubers and taxis, and we were still able to get around seamlessly. But if you're going to want to take advantage of the train system, stay at a nice hotel where all of the transit is. Okay, number 2, once you've booked your luxury hotel, you're going to take advantage of their personal concierge service. You need to use their concierge like a personal assistant because they are so helpful. They speak the language, they're more knowledgeable, they live there. My mistake was that I emailed them way too close to our trip. I should have emailed them months in advance, telling them where I wanted to go, the activities, the Michelin-star restaurants, because by the time I emailed them was a week or 2 out and a lot of things were booked up. If there are restaurants that you have been eyeing, like omakase spots, kaiseki spots, high-end Michelin-star spots that are hyped up on TikTok, you're going to want to email them early and have them book them for you immediately. They're going to ask for a credit card to hold for deposits or cancellation, but the good thing is a period of time where you can cancel with no fee. So the best thing to do is book up the restaurants you want the week or 2 before, decide if you're going to actually go to them, and then cancel without a fee if needed. That is just the smarter way. That way you have reservations and you're not left stranded to places you really wanted to go when you're traveling halfway across the world. Okay, luxury tip number 3, and if you're not doing this, you are making a huge mistake. Japan's luggage forwarding system is amazing. It gets your luggage from one place to the next seamlessly, and you don't have to lift a finger. This was really the one thing that we did right. So our route was Osaka, Kyoto, Hakone, and then Tokyo. So instead of shipping the luggage one city to the next, we knew we were spending the most time in Tokyo and 2 days in Kyoto, 1 day in Hakone. So from our first stop was Osaka, we shipped our big luggage directly to Tokyo. My husband and I kept a small luggage each so we could use it in Kyoto and Hakone, but then the majority of the stuff, since we were spending 8 nights in Tokyo, was just shipped there. So it made our lives so much easier because you were going to be taking the bullet trains between Osaka, Kyoto, and Hakone. Also, if you're worried about getting it lost, which ours didn't, just put an air tag in it and it'll give you some peace of mind. Okay, and that brings us to tip number 4 with the luggages. I see so many people recommending bring an empty luggage, and I do not recommend this. This is a big mistake if you bring an empty luggage. In my opinion, bringing in extra luggage is the opposite of luxury because you are carrying this extra luggage that you are going to have to pay extra to ship from city to city. Okay, so my tip is instead of bringing in extra luggage, do not overpack, leave some space in your big luggage, and then when you need to, buy a luggage. You don't have to buy an expensive luggage. We ended up buying a big Rimowa check-in that we actually filled, but there are plenty of like cheaper luggages everywhere in Japan. So do not pack that extra luggage. Okay, number 5, and this is the second biggest mistake that we made on our trip. If you're planning on taking the bullet train between cities, you are going to want to book those tickets ahead of time instead of the day of like we did, which was our 4-hour mistake with the bullet trains. Since we didn't book our seats ahead of time, we didn't get the seats on the Mount Fuji side, we didn't get food ahead of time, and we rushed and got on the wrong transfer train, which went backwards. So we went 2 hours towards Hakone and 2 hours back towards Kyoto. So do not do what we did. We got to our transfer stop. We were like, oh my God, we have to rush to the train. There was only like 10 minutes in between the transfer. We just got on the first train that we saw on the track, and that happened to be the completely wrong train. It left a few minutes earlier than the train that we were supposed to get on, like was scheduled on our ticket. So make sure to double check your ticket. If it is even a few minutes off or a minute off, do not get on the train because it is the wrong train. So please plan ahead, plan to go to the train station early, relax, get on the right train, and you will not make a 4-hour mistake like we did. Okay, number 6, and this is one of my favorite travel tips that no one told us, but we figured it out while we were there. So if you love the idea of being comfortable in your Ubers, you're going to want to book their premium Uber service because this is not like anything that I've seen in the United States or New York City. These seats are huge. They recline flat. They feel like you're flying business, but you're in a car. They're just so comfortable. And honestly, the price difference for like a luxury experience, if you're taking like a 30-minute Uber, is so worth it. I think some of the cars were only $5 to $15 more. So if you want to splurge and have a fun time, we did when we saw it because I just thought it was so fun and an experience that you wouldn't get anywhere else. This just made going from location to location so much more fun. So just a tip, you don't have to do it, but definitely an added luxurious experience if you want that little bit. Okay, number 7, and this is one that we figured out while we were in Japan, is you need to use Tabelog to look up every single meal, even if you are walking in, to make sure you are not wasting a meal because you just don't want a bad meal. To be honest, every single meal that you have in Japan will be decent, but you're gonna want everything to be above and beyond your expectations. And if you want that experience, use it to check their ratings. Any rating that you see that's 3.5 and above is pretty excellent. 4 and above is like beyond amazing. We did go to one restaurant that we did not double check on Tabelog, and that was a mistake. It was probably our least favorite meal. And you can also use Tabelog to make reservations like day of. You can be like 7 p.m., 2 people, see what's available. Making reservations is also key to having a great time in Japan. That being said, we did not make reservations every single day, and this is a Tokyo tip for you. So if you don't have a reservation, this is what you're going to do. We did this multiple days in Tokyo. Imagine it's 8 p.m., you go to a restaurant, you're like, hey, can I come in for 2? They're like, no room. You go to the next restaurant, you get turned away. You are going to head to this place called Tokyo Plaza. Even though Tokyo Plaza is technically a shopping center, we figured out that they have really, really good food options that you don't need a reservation at. To be honest, I think the reason why they're not fully packed is because it is in the plaza and the food is a little bit more expensive. There's a Tokyo Plaza in like Shibuya, Ginza. There's 3 of them in Tokyo. Restaurants are definitely a little bit pricier. There's usually set menus. And on our last day, we actually had this really good Wagyu shabu shabu that we just walked into and was absolutely amazing. Okay, number 9, let's talk about what you're going to be wearing in Japan. The people who live in Japan definitely are so chic. They know how to dress. They're really into street style. And the theme of everyone, though, is that they are mostly more modest. So I would say if you're thinking about wearing something super low cut or super short, actually short skirts seem to be okay, but they're not really okay with showing too much on top. So if you don't want to look like a tourist, pack layers because the weather can change drastically from day to night. I went in early October and I made the mistake of only packing fall clothes, and it was so hot during the day. So I had to wear this little cardigan that I didn't wear a shirt under. I'll show you a photo, and I really felt out of place. I even got a comment on one of my YouTube videos telling me like what not to wear in Japan. So yeah, don't be like me. I would say bring things like trousers, linen, cardigans, things that you can layer and take off, but still are pretty modest and chic if you really want to blend in and not look like a tourist. Also, to be a little bit more respectful and not look like an eyesore like I did. So yeah, learn from my mistake. Pro tip, I did do a lot of shopping at Uniqlo because they have amazing basics at really great prices and are very high quality. So if you're in a pinch, I would say go get shirts if you need to. The one thing that you do need to pack though at an excessive amount is underwear, because my husband ran out of underwear mid-trip and we had to send out our laundry. So that was kind of inconvenient, but you can always buy the other basics like shirts and pants and cardigans if you really need to. Okay, number 10, and this is for the matcha lovers who are expecting the best matcha in Japan. So I assumed that when I went to Japan, since I am a matcha lover, it will be the best matcha that I've ever had, since that's where it originated from. And it absolutely was not. A lot of the places, whether I was in Osaka, Kyoto, Tokyo, used pre-mixed matcha, and I was super, super disappointed. If you want that more luxurious, high quality matcha feel, go to places that whisk it in front of you, because then you're actually getting that experience. Also, if you're planning on buying some of those premium matcha brands that are sold out everywhere and hoping to get it in Japan, they typically do sell them, but you have to go early to the store. For example, Ippudo, they only let you buy 1 tin per person and they sell out early in the day. So you're gonna want to kind of tailor your itinerary around if you're going to want to buy matcha. To be honest, it is a little bit of a trek going around because not all of the matcha is in one spot. So you're gonna have to plan where to go to get it, if that really matters to you. I would say plan your matcha hunting earlier in the day to get those tins and powders before they sell out, and then go on with your day, because I was hunting for matcha at like 4 or 5 p.m. It was all sold out. So I ended up with stuff that I didn't love, which is a little bit sad, so learn from my mistake. Okay, number 11, and obviously everyone's so excited to go to Japan to eat sushi, but I would say do not overbook sushi restaurants in your itinerary. While omakase is incredible and you're going to want to book a few, I wouldn't suggest booking one every single day or even every other day, because you're going to be eating so much raw fish throughout your trip. You are going to be sushied out. By the end of our 2-week trip in Japan, I was like, I don't even want to look at another piece of fatty tuna. The worst thing that could happen to you is if you booked 5 omakase restaurants and you realize that you are totally done with sushi and you still have to go, because there are deposits that are non-refundable. There's a certain time limit, and obviously the day of, you're not going to be able to cancel. So I would say book a few that you have to go to, but don't overdo it. Japan actually has some of the best food that is not Japanese food either. So you might want to look into that. There's really good pizza. There's good French food. We had this jerk chicken, surprisingly, that was really good as like a late night after club thing. But yeah, they have so much good food. You're going to want to explore other things besides sushi. Okay, so number 12, and this is the biggest mistake that we made in our entire trip to Tokyo. This was the $1,000 Hakone experience that I do not want you doing, because I would not recommend this to anyone, and I'm warning everyone, don't do this. So since it was our honeymoon, we obviously wanted a really luxurious ryokan experience with the onsen inside. So when we looked up an experience, we just picked a really expensive place, a 5-star place in Hakone, and we assumed it would be beautiful and everything everything that we thought it would be. When we booked the hotel, it was the last room left. So we were like, oh my God, this place must be amazing. It is booked out. Instead, when we got there, the place was extremely dated. And to be honest, I'm okay with kind of like an older look as long as the place is spotless and clean, especially if you're paying over $1,000 a night at one of these places. The second we walked into our room, there were these little like bunches of cobwebs in the corners. It felt like it wasn't well cleaned. We swatted at mosquitoes, and it could have been because we were in the onsen room that was like on the ground floor. But even the hallways felt like we were in a Japanese horror film. I just was not about it. We were like, can't wait to leave this place. And you don't want to feel that way when you're paying that much that you can't wait to leave. That's just weird. So after we left Hakone, we went to Tokyo and we met up with a couple who told us Hakone was their favorite part of their trip. And we were like, are you kidding? Because it was the worst part of our trip. They showed us photos and videos of their hotel and it looked spotless. It looked modern. It still had that traditional feel, but they said they loved it. And I would say the mistake that we made was not reading and trusting the reviews enough. So when we were reading the reviews, I did see a few that were like, it's dated, it's not well maintained. And I was like, you know, how bad could it be? Because it is a fully booked out place. And the friends actually also told us that they almost booked our place, but it was sold out. In Japan, while usually 5-star is amazing, 5 stars doesn't necessarily mean it's the most modern, chic place that you should stay. It just means the amount of amenities. So 5 stars, we had our kaiseki dinner served to us in room. So that, I guess, is a luxury experience and what you're paying for. But the room itself was really nothing great. The hotel that they stayed at was a 4-star and in my opinion was way, way better. So my advice is always check recent guest photos. And if any of the reviews say it's dated, worn, not well maintained, I would avoid it at all costs. So I'm not going to name the hotel because at the end of the day, the staff was very nice and they were very apologetic about the mosquitoes and the cobwebs. And I just don't want to do that publicly. But if you really are going to Hakone and you want to know the name, add me on Instagram and send me a DM and I will tell you where not to stay. Okay, guys, we made it all the way to the end, all of these 12 tips. If you have any specific luxury tips as well, drop them below because I'll definitely be making another trip to Japan. If you made it all the way to the end, drop a little heart, smiley face, comment, anything, and I'll be dropping more tips about how to live your best life. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye! Little Milo says bye.